Hello, this is Michèle from Dyslexia Publishing Limited, and we are again doing another podcast here for Dyslexia Bookworm podcast in sunny Edinburgh at the Edinburgh International Book Festival. It's the last day, and so we've saved our best for last. I'd love to introduce you to Maaike, who we are working together. She is participating in our Dyslexia mentorship program, and her husband Andrew. So please say hello.
Hello everyone, I'm Maaike, and this is my husband Andrew.
Hello there everybody.
So today is just a simple day. Maaike has done so well with writing, and she's had an issue to deal with for all of her life that wasn't diagnosed until later, but rather than me tell the story, it's a story about dyslexia. So Maaike, would you please tell everyone about what it's been like, how dyslexia has affected first your reading life?
Effectively, I love reading, always have, but I'm a very slow reader, and in school that was an issue because I wasn't given enough time to complete books, except by one teacher who seemed to understand that there was something going on, and he allowed me to sneak books home and give me that extra time I needed, which I was very grateful for. So. And
with the dyslexia, what's the difficulty in it? Emerging of words, or what is the exact?
There are a lot of different versions of dyslexia. The version I have, I don't recognise the difference between similar sounding letters like D's and T's, V and F's, S and Z, or S and Z, depending on the language. I am bilingual, so there's a slight difference there. But I make the same errors in both Dutch and English. And yeah, sometimes there's multiple facets to being dyslexic. Apart from not recognising the different letters, I also, my eyes will not stay on one line when I'm reading. So I have three lines which will blur into one. And it wasn't until I was diagnosed with dyslexia that was something that was managed. So.
And please tell us, how did you find out that you were dyslexic?
Very silly. I found out through the Cosby Show, a TV show in the 1980s, who did a special about it was a family show with 3 children, and one of the children in the show came home from school complaining that he'd failed a test that he'd studied for, and then started describing everything that was wrong. And my mum and I were watching this program, and it was like they were talking about me. All the things that they were saying, like, oh my word, this is my story. And then shortly after that, I bumped into a classmate who was suddenly wearing glasses, and I had to like, you've got 20/20 vision, what's going on there? And he explained that he was diagnosed with dyslexia, gave me the phone number of his specialist. Then I went to see him, and he was actually surprised I'd managed to get as far in school as I had. And this is measured me for what's called prisma glasses, which helped me, this thing with the 3 lines, three sentences that blur into one. These prisma glasses help separate that.
Oh, that's excellent. So there's not as much distortion, so to speak.
Exactly.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, and I've only had to wear them for a couple of years to get my eyes adapted enough to manage on their own. Although I still, on occasion, if I do a lot of reading, I will use a ruler to limit reading too many sentences through one another, and that's a little trick that does help. So. And
as a matter of fact, rulers used even for people without problems with dyslexia. It's used for speed reading to keep the eyes on one line,
exactly.
And to help with speed reading. So that's amazing. So that's how it's impacted the reading part of your life. Now your writing ability, the way you are devoted to that, and I know you've written 4 books, and we're working on one of them right now. How did the dyslexia affect your writing? Initially,
when I've written since I was a child, and I wouldn't be able to succeed in any of it because I struggled with getting with my spelling, and I allowed that to stop me, as well as certain words I wouldn't find the right nuance. My mum asked me to write in Dutch because that's one of my languages, and that I was living in the Netherlands at the time, and it just, I wouldn't be able to get past it. Then when I was sick of work for a month in 2008, my husband asked me to write something for him after I kept complaining about being bored. And Andrew has been wonderful, because the thing with the D's and T's and the V's and F's, that again, I allowed that to stop me, and Andrew said, don't worry, I'll look at that, I'll sort that out for you later. And that's, and also he asked me to write in English, which for me is the easier language to write in. And so, and from there it just took off. And I've been, as you said, I've written 4 books since.
And so that's amazing. That's amazing to me. Now, Andrew, since you kind of are the first critique editor,
Yes.
review it, what is it that you look for in Maaike's writing?
Well, I mean, the imagination is one of the things that comes through her writing. The ability to create such wonderful characters and a story that goes with it. It's just so wonderful to see that and to have that depth of imagination. And what we've done, some of it is factually based. So what we'll do is we often go to museums or aircraft museums or motor museums or anywhere like that, anything that's relevant, so that we can get background information on it, and that's interwoven in there. And so when I am reading these, I can see that interwoven not only with the beauty of the characters, but with also the factual information that's going with it. Yes, it's a fictional novel, but there's Maaike makes sure that all of that is as it should be. And yes, and I also, as Maaike has touched on, I'll also edit some bits, and I'll also feed back to her on what I think would look better in terms of the reading of the sentence, or even with the spellings, with the D's and the T's, and I'll just go through that. I appreciate that's not always easy to pick up. When you're writing, your imagination is flowing and you write, and then you just need somebody to go back over it, and that's my part of it, as well as giving her the encouragement as well.
The encouragement is very important.
Oh, yeah.
It makes a big difference.
I mean, you've spoken about finding your writing addictive as well, and I think that's a great part of it. You've finished one book and then you've thought of something else, and then you've gone on to do that. I've encouraged it, but you love doing it. I know you spend a lot of your spare time writing, and I'm happy for that to happen, and it's something that you get great joy from.
Yeah. Andrew gives me all the time and the space that I need to do it. He'll take on chores so I can sit and write. And that's very helpful.
Yes, absolutely.
He's wonderful.
Quite happy to do that.
is.
It's
Perfect
fine.
husband.
Yeah.
It is wonderful to have support. Support is very important in encouragement in writing, because quite often when we really are passionate about something, and that's happened with children, we're passionate about a particular thing that we love doing, whether it's painting, writing, reading, and if we're not encouraged, then that, a talent can go by the wayside.
Absolutely. Lack of encouragement is an enormous hill to overcome. So it's like a mountain you have to climb, and you need somebody to help you, to encourage you, and to support you in it. So
Absolutely. So now what we'll do is the process for writing, discussing that. It's different for every author, and give us not just your tips, but what you do. What's your process for doing it, Maaike?
I'm very old-fashioned. I write, when I'm writing something new, I write pen and paper. I find that my mind is going very fast with ideas. If I write with pen and paper, it slows me down a little bit to think what it is I'm actually putting down. I did typing in school, so I'm fairly quick at typing, and I find that if I go straight on the computer and type things out, I miss bits. And so yes, I deliberately slow myself down a little bit by writing my hand, and then I do a first rewrite effectively on the computer, bit by bit. I also I have a start of a scene. I know where I want to take it, and I'm effectively creating bridges to get from point A to point B in a way that is believable and interesting, without too much rambling. I'm very good at rambling.
I think we all have our tangents.
We do. At the moment, I'm rewriting Attrick-Water, my second, which is the second book I wrote, and I'm rewriting that with you at the moment, and I'm very much enjoying it because it's been a few years since I wrote it, and so I'm looking at it again with fresh eyes, and I'm rewriting it, which is a very interesting process because all these bits and pieces that I put in that I felt at the time were really important, I'm now looking at like, maybe not so very important, maybe these are just there for me because I did so much research on it, I feel I have to put it in.
Yes.
So, and now I can see ways of taking them out or reducing them or changing them from just being given facts to parts of the action, or sometimes by speech, sometimes by somebody doing something. And yeah, it's quite it's a long process, but it's also a very addictive process. So, because anybody who writes will know they have this world in their head, and you are the boss of it. You decide what happens in it, and the big thing is to find a way to express it and to keep somebody interested in it. So.
And actually, several of our other authors have said that the stories that they've worked on and the reason they write, it's very cathartic.
Yes.
Our poet, Andrew Wilson, he uses that to get through difficulties when he was a teenager until now. When he's faced with it, his poetry comes out. Nat Campbell as well, she went through very difficulty when the loss of her mother. That was very cathartic. And I think part of it, as you said, Maaike, we control the world. So the next question is, how do your characters come in? How do you develop your characters?
They come in quite naturally. Every character I describe, in a way, no matter how nasty or evil they are, there's always a little bit. No matter how nasty a character is, there's always part of yourself in there, or someone or something you've experienced, someone you know or someone you've experienced, and it's very therapeutic to do that. So if I'm in a really bad mood, I can do something really nasty to my poor lead character. Or I can, if I'm annoyed with somebody, I can actually work them in a character, just to sort of get them out of my system in that way. So yeah, writing is therapeutic. So creating characters is very therapeutic. So
yes, and as we're saying, it's cathartic. How we deal with it, a stressful day or something you want to work through, and essentially a problem as well that will come into mind, and you develop it through the characters. So, who do you have in Attrick-Water that we're working on? Do you have a favorite character or two?
I love all my lead characters. In Attrick-Water, there's two characters, Thomas Attrick-Water and his sister Lily Attrick-Water. And in a way, they're both part of me. I love both characters. Lily is the more shy, timid, calm girl. Thomas is very confident, but he's very troubled. He's the Second World War, they're both doing their duties, and Thomas in particular is emotionally damaged by the work he's been doing, and just developing this, working him through, it's a process I really like. As Andrew will know, on occasionally when I get frustrated, I just flare up, and I bring that back in some of my characters. Thomas definitely has that. He certainly has there's one episode where he gets cross and the person who's with will know about it. I won't give any details. This is still to read.
Absolutely. So, is there any part of Andrew in any of the characters in Attrikwater, without giving too much away?
Andrew's an absolute gentleman, and I think there's a character called James in the book, and I think there's a lot of Andrew in him. So
yes, it's good to have the good and bad qualities. It's the yin and yang of writing. So in a short synopsis to get the reader's interest in it, of course it's not published yet, but just in the writing process, what's the book about, just generally?
It's the story of Thomas and Lily Attrikwater, the two siblings, and both doing their share for the war. I have a subtitle: Lies, Spies, Spitfires and Suspender Belts.
Oh, I love that.
That pretty much sums it up.
All right. So taking it through, and it's just not just about the adventures, but also about
this emotional growth.
Yes. And sense of love, loss, and everything that did touch the world during World War II.
Yeah.
And I think that is, no matter how many years pass, we still go back into history. And again, it's to see how people survived and how we can learn from it and such. So, what are a couple of the other books that you've written about?
Most of my books are set in the Second World War. 3 out of 4 are set in the Second World War. My third book, Cliff Edge House, is based around a Secret Service agency during the Second World War. Again, I've got 2 lead characters, a brother and sister, and again, it's both their stories being told simultaneously. And so there seems to be always some kind of family secret to uncover, to creating a puzzle in a way. There's always a bit of romance. So
romance is, I think an underlying theme in every novel, because you have to have that. It touches people's hearts. And then, of course, the secret, because it's a mystery. Even though it's a romance or, fiction or whatever it might be, the little bit of mystery keeps people turning the pages, the reader turning the pages.
I certainly hope so.
Yes, so that they get to the next part. I know the last few chapters I've read, I was turning the pages and it got to the end of the chapter and there was no more left, and I was very disappointed. Where's the rest of the book? I am delighted to say that it has come, so I will be able to continue reading with it. The question, let's go back with the dyslexia, because I really want to get this out for people with it, and I know that the effects of it and how it affects different people is very different. But we want them to know that it doesn't have to prevent them from creating. What would you say is what would your advice be, Maaike, to writers who have dyslexia?
Don't let it stop you. Absolutely, don't let it stop you. Don't let it slow you down. Just because you don't know how to write a word correctly doesn't mean you can't express yourself. In fact, a lot of people with dyslexia are very intelligent and very creative because their brain has to find other ways to get around this obstacle of writing. It's important to have somebody who encourages you, but even if you don't have that, you have to just follow your heart. You have a story in your head, and even when you start a story, you don't have to have the end in your head yet. Just start the story and let your mind take you there. And so the limitations on reading and writing, they're not that important. That's something that can be dealt with at a later stage.
Absolutely, and I think it is the part about creation. they might even start with just a short story, and that would get them into it. So I think it's important that, especially if they're younger, I think more so than years ago, they recognize it earlier now than they used to. And so they have the benefits of it, of the support from the schools, from teachers, from your parents, from friends. Everyone, can participate in supporting you, which I think is key. So it's get support and don't stop writing.
Get support, and it doesn't have to be from somebody who's an expert, just somebody who knows you, who knows that you like doing this. Ask them to read, and if they're better at spelling, ask them to help.
Absolutely. Andrew, for what you contribute with Maaike, what gives you the most pleasure in doing that?
Well, certainly reading it, and then certainly appreciating all of the character creation and the storyline, but also being able to, help Maaike to further develop her ideas and her writing, and to share that going forwards, really, in the research that we can do. And also, in more encouragement as well, just for her to keep writing, so that I can see the next book and the next book, and also see how things turn out. And I'm in awe and admiration of her, with her ability to create these real people, these characters. And I think that's important for you as well, isn't it? That you've got this person who created a set of people, a set of circumstances that you can do that with, And you're actually doing it. So many people just talk about it, or say, "Oh, I'll need to write one day, or I'll do this," and they don't. They think about it. They don't actually. And I said to you all those years ago, "Please write me a story. You're bored. You've said you like writing. Now's a good chance for you to sit down and do some writing. Show me.
Write in English, because my Dutch is crap."
Exactly. Write in English, please, because I'll be able to understand it.
In my case, because I'm bilingual, Dutch and English, to my surprise, I found that, although I did all my schooling in Dutch, I found that English was my better language for creating these stories. And sometimes that's the difference for people. If you are bilingual, or some people even more than that, trilingual, use the language that works best for you.
That's an excellent point, that you feel most comfortable in.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll master English one day. I'll be working on it. I understand. Yes,
no, I was
Andrew?
going to say, and certainly when I think you'd written one chapter of your first book. You'd just written one, as it turned out, was your first book. And I said, okay, that's good. What happens next, though? Where's the rest? So
and that started it.
And that started it, and off you went on your merry way, and haven't looked back since. And that was that 14 years ago now, isn't it? Nearly. Yeah. 2008, 2022 now. So yeah.
That's amazing. Now, I think earlier we discussed briefly, but I don't know if our audience heard it, about where you go to get inspiration.
We go all sorts of places. Inspiration can come from anything from the weather to a museum to talking to people, travelling, all sorts of places. And we do a lot of that together. Yeah. And sometimes I'm writing something like, Andrew, this character needs a car. Right, let's go to the museum and see what cars we've got from that era.
And sometimes we'll be out and you might see a building or something, and you'll take a picture of it, because then you'll weave the idea of that building into your story. We might go to a location when it's by the coast somewhere, and you say, right, I'm going to use that location.
Yeah.
I'll use that. I'll imagine that there's that building there, and this family lives there, or this organisation works there. And that's how it all comes together. Really.
Exactly. And with the development of characters, some characters they completely start inside your mind. The way they look, the way they talk, the way they develop. Other characters, sometimes you see somebody and beat somebody sometimes somebody's famous, who suits the character that is in your head. In my very first book, Jade Flower, there's a vicar, and there's a Methodist vicar who I've based on Tony Hadley, just because he jumped to my mind, and he was the perfect impersonation of the character. Tony Hadley, love his music, love his singing, love his voice, but I also love the fact that he is known as a very friendly gentleman, family man, and that was exactly the picture I had in my mind for this picture, and it was natural progression for this vicar to, in my mind, look that way.
And it's the characters, the building of the characters, because they do come from everywhere.
Absolutely everywhere.
Walking along the street, you can see someone sitting next to you, might hear a conversation, it will click, and they all become, do they live in your mind, Maaike?
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Good. I'm delighted to hear that, because when I write and I say about different characters, and you say, not different personalities, just the characters in my head.
Oh no, they all live.
They all live happily.
Happily together.
I think that's wonderful, and I think that providing inspiration to all people who wish to write, but mostly this one's targeted to those who do have dyslexia, and we want to say that find a support, as you found, Andrew, and it's not just a support, it's more like something that's woven together with both of you, and the way that you support each other, because you enjoy the readings, you love creating the characters and the stories, and then the research is done mutually. So I think that's a wonderful part to the writing relationship and the kind of editing relationship, and that's to be treasured. Not absolutely, because not everybody has that. So I think that's about it for questions for right now. I wish to thank you very much, Maaike, for joining us all the way, because you live down south, and you've come
all the way in Surrey.
Yes. And you've both traveled all the way up to the Edinburgh Book Festival. It's the last day. It's our last celebration until next year. So what I would like to do is say thank you very much to all of our listeners who have listened to us throughout the Edinburgh Book Festival. Of course, this isn't the end of the podcast. We have one next week. Again, once I'll have to let it remain a secret. But this is Michèle from Jasami Bookworm Podcast saying thank you very much. Maaike, who would you like to give your shout out to?
My friends, my family, Mark, my agent, who's also a friend of ours, everyone we know and love, my colleagues at work, the lot.
And Andrew, who would you like to give a shout out to?
Really just everyone who's supported you and supported in what you're doing. Your mum and dad, your sister, brother-in-law, my sister, various members of the family, also various friends and others that we've met who've found an interest, just perhaps by reading a little bit of your work or hearing you talk about it, and said, wow, we want to see what happens next. We'd love to, see the next instalment or the next chapter. So just really anybody who's supported and encouraged Maaike going forwards, really.
Wonderful. And my shout out is to all of those who support anyone with dyslexia with their writing. It's very key. We will have, in the description, we'll have a couple of links for you to do it. So once again, it's Michèle from the Jasami Bookworm Podcast, wishing you a sunny day. This is a short reading from Attrick Water by Maaike Zaagsma, and it's from Chapter 2. Just as Lily reached the barrier, a shrill whistle pierced the air, and thick white clouds billowed onto the platform, blocking the rays of the setting sun. "Is that the last train west for today?" she asked the ticket inspector. "It is indeed, miss. You'll have to be quick if you want to catch it," the man replies as he opens the barrier for her. As the train slowly starts to move, Lily, in a most unladylike manner, dashes for the last carriage with her kit bag under her arm and her Woman's Auxiliary Air Force cap in her hand. Fortunately, a fellow passenger notices her, kindly holds the door open, and assists her on board. As the train starts to build up its speed, he courteously stows her kit bag into the overhead luggage rack, enabling Lily to sit down and catch her breath. Finally, he sits down opposite and gives her a friendly smile. "Thank you," she faces the man, an RAF pilot in his mid-20s, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark strawberry blonde hair and calm, friendly eyes, the color of which appears a pleasant mixture of hazel and green as they reflect the last rays of sunlight. "Flight Lieutenant Frederick James," he offers her his hand while introducing himself. "Corporal Elizabeth Attrickwater," she responds with a shy smile. "Traveling far?" Though speaking in a typical clipped public school tones, Lily is cautious in her reply, the familiar slogans warning the population of enemy spies momentarily coming to mind. "Winchester. I'm visiting my sister." "Winchester? Really? That's where I'm heading too. I'm to join my new squadron in a few days, and since it's on the way and I've never been there before, I thought I'd take the opportunity to visit the place. I hear it is quite a nice little town." "It is," Lily confirms. Outside, the light is slowly disappearing. With the continued order of a national blackout, the lights inside the cabin remain switched off while the train makes its way westward at a reduced speed. Worn out, Lily struggles to suppress the urge to yawn somewhat. "Long day? If you want to close your eyes for a while, please do. I'll wake you when we get to Winchester," the pilot suggests. "Thank you." As she slowly nods off, Lily smiles softly about the good-looking officer sitting opposite her. A proper gentleman. How nice. "Corporal Attrickwater, wake up." He gently wakes her up as the train slows down gradually and pulls into the station. Sleepily, Lily looks around her. "Where?" "Winchester. You slept through the entire journey. I guess you were very tired." Lily nods. "I was in the East End during the air raid this afternoon." That explains it. He gets her bags down for her. "I was wondering, you wouldn't happen to know any half-decent hotel or boarding houses near the station, do you? I didn't have a chance to book anywhere to stay before I set off due to the short notice of my posting." "There is a hotel near the station which is pleasant and not too expensive. That's why I'm staying tonight, as it's too late and too dark for my sister to collect me at this hour. They are very accommodating there, so I'm sure they'll be able to put you up for a few days." "Thank you."